Today, if you wake up with a painful tooth, you'll probably call a dentist. A few pills, one appointment, maybe an hour in a chair. Problem solved. But for most of human history, that same tooth could kill you. And that sounds like an exaggeration, but archaeologists have found ancient skeletons belonging to people who survived broken bones, animal attacks, and severe injuries, only to die from infections that started inside their mouths. So, what actually killed ancient humans? Because the answer is very different from what most people imagine. When people think about prehistoric death, they usually picture something dramatic: a mammoth charging across a frozen plain, a saber-toothed predator emerging from the darkness, a violent battle between rival groups, and those things certainly happened. But for most of your ancestors, they were not the greatest danger. The most dangerous threats were often invisible: disease, infection, malnutrition, complications during childbirth, things so ordinary that modern people rarely think about them. To understand why, imagine living 30,000 years ago. There are no hospitals, no antibiotics, no painkillers, no emergency rooms, no way to see inside the human body. If something goes wrong, you don't know why. And more importantly, you probably don't know how to stop it. A simple cut while preparing food could become infected. A small wound on your leg could slowly spread through the body. Today, bacteria are mostly an inconvenience. For your ancestors, they were one of the deadliest predators on Earth. The frightening part is that death often arrived slowly, not in minutes, not even in hours, but over days and weeks. Archaeologists regularly discover skeletons showing signs of healed fractures. These people survived the original injury. Their bones had enough time to repair themselves, but surviving an injury was only the first challenge. The real danger often came afterward. An infection could turn a survivable accident into a death sentence. And unlike a lion or a wolf, you couldn't see it coming. But infections weren't the only threat. Some dangers were hiding in plain sight. Take your teeth. Modern humans tend to take dental care for granted. If a cavity develops, a dentist removes it. If a tooth becomes infected, antibiotics and treatment usually solve the problem. For most of history, none of that existed. Archaeologists have discovered ancient skulls containing enormous dental abscesses. These infections began inside damaged teeth and slowly spread into surrounding tissue. Imagine living with constant pain for months. No anesthetic, no treatment, no relief. Just waiting and hoping the pain would somehow disappear. Sometimes it didn't. One remarkable discovery from northern Italy revealed a tooth roughly 14,000 years old. Inside the cavity were marks suggesting that someone had scraped away decayed tissue using a sharp flint tool. In other words, a Stone Age dental procedure. No anesthesia, no sterile equipment, just a sharp stone and desperation. The patient must have believed the procedure was preferable to the pain itself. But even that wasn't the most common cause of death, because one of the greatest dangers in the ancient world was simply being born. Today, childbirth remains serious, but modern medicine has dramatically reduced many of its risks. For ancient humans, childbirth was one of the most dangerous moments in life. Complications that are routinely treated today could become fatal. Both mothers and infants faced enormous risks. This is one reason why life expectancy appears so low in many ancient populations. When people hear that prehistoric humans often lived only 30 or 40 years on average, they sometimes imagine that nobody became old. That isn't true. Many ancient people reached their 50s, 60s, and sometimes beyond. The real problem was surviving childhood. Infant mortality was extremely high. Disease, infection, malnutrition, accidents. Many children never reached adulthood. Those who did often had a reasonable chance of living much longer. But reaching that point was the challenge. And then there was food. Modern supermarkets have created an illusion of certainty. Food appears whenever we want it. Ancient humans lived in a completely different reality. A failed hunt could matter. A drought could matter. A harsh winter could matter. A migration of animals could matter. Entire communities depended on conditions they could not control. For thousands of generations, hunger was a recurring companion. Most years might be manageable, but when circumstances changed, the consequences could be severe. Yet despite all of this, archaeologists have uncovered something surprising. Ancient humans were not simply victims struggling alone. Again and again, the evidence suggests cooperation. One of the most famous examples comes from Shanidar Cave in present-day Iraq. Researchers discovered the remains of a Neanderthal who had suffered multiple serious injuries. One arm may have been severely damaged or missing. He also showed evidence of other physical impairments. Yet he survived for years, possibly decades. That should have been impossible, unless other people were helping him. Someone brought food, someone provided protection, someone cared enough to keep him alive. The discovery changed how many scientists thought about ancient humans. Compassion was not invented by civilization. It existed long before cities, governments, or written history, even in some of the harshest environments imaginable. But there were limits to what care could accomplish. A severe infection, a burst appendix, a major internal injury. Ancient people had no way of diagnosing these conditions. Many deaths that seem preventable today would have appeared completely mysterious. Imagine experiencing severe abdominal pain 20,000 years ago. You don't know what an appendix is. You don't know about bacteria. You don't know about surgery. You only know that something hurts. Then it gets worse and worse, until eventually there is nothing anyone can do. This uncertainty shaped how ancient humans viewed death. Many dangers were invisible. Many illnesses were unexplained. Many deaths arrived without warning. And yet, despite living in a world that was far more dangerous than ours, ancient humans were not constantly thinking about death. They fell in love. They raised children. They laughed around campfires. They told stories beneath the stars. They planned for the future. In many ways, they were remarkably similar to us. Their world was harsher. But their hopes were familiar. Their fears were familiar. Their lives were familiar. The difference was that they lived without the safety nets we rarely notice today. And perhaps that's the strangest part of all. The things that most often killed ancient humans were not giant predators or legendary monsters. They were infections, broken bones, complications during childbirth, starvation, diseases nobody understood, small problems that became large ones, minor injuries that became fatal ones, invisible threats that modern medicine now defeats every day. Tonight, if you cut your finger, you'll probably wash the wound without thinking twice about it. If you get sick, you can visit a doctor. If a tooth starts hurting, you can make an appointment. For most of your ancestors, those options didn't exist. And that simple fact changed everything. Because ancient death was rarely dramatic. It was often quiet, ordinary, and unavoidable. Which means that every modern medicine cabinet, every hospital, and every pharmacy represents something your ancestors spent hundreds of thousands of years living without. A second chance. And for many of them, that second chance would have meant the difference between life and death.